very clear idea of the kind of spectacle that they wanted, which was great for me because then I had something to build off of, and the only thing I was interested in building was, well, how do we get there? How does that action tell us something about the characters we didn't know, so it's not just a checklist. Part of the mission statement of the Avengers was to be iconic but not bash it over the head, because, you know, like Iron Man, you want to keep it grounded somewhat.
That grounded tone is something that we try to apply across the movie. And so when it came to Avengers, the thing about tone was, let's keep it real, let's keep it grounded. Let's see what would happen if we put all these people together and this situation really had occurred. And I think that's why the opening sequence, this big research facility exploding, I think it's really important that we see it really collapse and that it has a real world implication. And that really fury shaken to the core by it.
Coulson, get back to base. This is a level 7. As of right now, we are at war.
The NASA facility in Cleveland was a spectacular location. We wanted a location that you can believe is a mile underground that had a very impressive architecture to reveal our film. When they found this location, we looked at that and we said, wow, we have to shoot here.
This is really a one-of-a-kind, amazing facility. It's the largest space simulation facility in the world. What we're standing in here is the vacuum chamber. This is where we simulate those conditions in space. And in space, you have no air. It's just a vacuum. So we can pull all the air out of this chamber and simulate those conditions. And being a chamber of this size, as you can see, 122 feet tall and 100-foot diameter, it's really a magnificent sight.
Something like this isn't really something you can build. It gives the movie great scope. It's one of the loveliest and actually sexiest places we've shot in. Every shot feels enormously epic, which is a good way to start.
Technology of S.H.I.E.L.D., which up to this point has been a few nifty gadgets, but mainly a lot of sedans and futuristic-looking cars and things like that. Well, in this movie, we introduce what comic fans always sort of thought might be just out of frame or just above the clouds in some of the other films, the helicarrier.
It's an aircraft carrier slash space shuttle of some kind. It goes like every different level. You see us like disappearing into the clouds. It's impossible to trace. It is S.H.I.E.L.D. on the fly, and it's probably going to blow some fanboys' minds. I don't think they'll ever recover.
It was part of the bargain with Marvel right away. They wanted the helicarrier. I was about to say no. It looks amazing. When it was first designed in the 60s, it had little propellers. Since then, they invented science, and we realized that might not actually stay up. You know, so always the idea was this floating fortress. And we talked a lot about, you know, how do we make it work. We went to a more traditional aircraft carrier design, partially because, you know, in the comics it's very bottom heavy. It looks like this enormous glass palace that's, you just couldn't stay up. And, you know, the streamlined design that the guys came up with was beautiful, but also you could just buy it. It was towing the line between reality and fantasy.
The journey to how that idea of the helicarrier became the helicarrier that's in the movie has been really interesting. It was kind of late in the process of the story development where we said, you know what, we should see the helicarrier take off out of the water.
We shot it on a parking lot in Albuquerque for all the scenes that has Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett and Chris. Pretty much that's all that is real. There's a few people walking around, there's a couple of trucks, there's I think 1 or 2 planes are real, but everything else is completely digital. It was designed so that the reflection and the refractions that we were getting was big enough to give us some bounds so that we could actually recreate it and feel that we were in a takeoff area of some sort of carrier in the water, but nobody really knows until it takes off that it's actually a flying ship.
You need the audience to experience it with Steve and Bruce, who really are, more than anybody else on the team, audience identification figures. To experience with them both the magnificence and the absurdity of this thing is taking off or flying. And that sequence became actually a very important part of the emotional journey of the thing.
That is beautiful imagery. That is actually beautiful imagery. It really is.
When Captain America and Bruce Banner walk onto the helicarrier for the first time, you can see it in their eyes. They're impressed. I mean, everyone who walked onto the set was impressed. So you bring them on the set for the first time, it is truly a wonder.
I'm really looking forward to all aspects of shooting in here. It's such a beautiful place to explore photographically. All sorts of lovely foreground detail that James Chinlund, the designer, has given us. So, I mean, it's a whole panoply of angles. I mean, I'm in options paralysis where we're like going, my God, every angle is a good one.
It's going, you know, my relationship to Jeremy is sort of hold that.
When the action really ramps up and we can really start working with dynamic camera moves systems in here, which will allow us to track over and around all these consoles and create a sense of movement and dynamism.
Pretty awesome set to have my own place of power where I actually control the ship, control everything that happens on it. Pretty great feeling. It gives you a sense of power and the sense of urgency and busyness that a big ship like that would have. The fact that we can get all the superheroes together and come there is pretty impressive in itself.
We get into a situation like this again, what happens then?
They'll come back.
I write for visual moments, particularly something like this. When these guys create something where you see the team together, or you see someone in the environment, or you see the actor doing the action, everybody on board suddenly is seeing either what I saw or what I'm really glad they saw. You see any of these things realized, and you go, oh, it looks awesome.
I think it's the grounded nature with which Joss has infused this film that is, in my mind, a throwback to what people loved in Iron Man. Joss was just dedicated to seeing that through.
In the end, I think when the film goer sees the final product, they appreciate it just as much as we do.
That's what makes it ultimately much more rewarding.